Welcome to Treadmill Talks with Shannon Maves, a podcast for athletes and fitness enthusiasts to pass the time during mind-numbing cardio while I use my no-bullshit coaching style to educate, inspire, and entertain. I'm your host, Shannon Maves. Now let's walk and talk. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Treadmill Talks. A few weeks ago, I released an episode about not making excuses. And I received a very positive response from a lot of people. But what was funny and interesting to me was that the vast majority of people who liked that episode were competitors, which got me thinking, I should do an episode about excuses competitors make. We'll see if I still get the same great response from this episode. To be fair, though, competitors are tough. I mean, you don't choose to compete unless you've got some grit and relentlessness. Usually competitors are already diligent about going to the gym and hitting their nutrition. So all of those excuses that I talked about last month don't really apply to most competitors, which is why they've decided to take things to the next level. So this episode is not intended to shit on competitors, but more so just be kind of fun and maybe a good reminder that if you want to be a successful competitor, sometimes you need to suck it the fuck up, because when you make the decision to step on stage, you are making the decision to step your game up. And yet I still hear a lot of excuses from competitors, which may be in part because they are malnourished and exhausted, but that's the name of the game, y'all. Suck it the fuck up and step your game up. Don't make excuses. Let's dive in now, shall we? Excuse number one. I'm starving, so I ate off plan. Or one bite isn't gonna hurt. Whatever bullshit it is that you tell yourself in order to justify eating off your plan is an excuse. Unless you are the 1% of competitors who are an exception and get to go into a show while increasing their food, you are going to be hungry during prep. Fucking deal with it. Being lean sucks. It's painful being that hungry, but that's what you signed up for. There's a reason most people are not shredded, because it feels like shit being shredded. Instead of using it as an excuse to eat off plan, remind yourself that it is temporary. And those hard days when you are fucking starving and so tempted to go off plan are character building days. Those are the days that you will be so proud of yourself for staying on plan. Those are the days that you're going to look back on when you are on stage and you're going to be like, fuck yes, I fucking did that. And it was so worth it. Win or lose, it will be worth it to step on stage knowing that you did everything in your power to stay on plan. If you get second place, you do not want to sit there and wonder whether or not eating off plan a couple of times during prep is what held you back from getting first place. You want to get up there with the confidence knowing that you gave it your all. Along these same lines is another excuse I hear. I'm too tired, so I skipped the gym, or I skipped cardio, or something else important. Again, you want to get on stage knowing that you did everything you could to stay on plan. If you're that depleted with food that you just cannot physically function anymore, tell your coach. Depending on the situation, they might make adjustments to your plan. Maybe you are being pushed too hard and you could use an extra rest day or a refeed or both. But be prepared for your coach to possibly tell you to suck it the fuck up and step your game up. Every meal and every lift does matter. They all add up and compound over time. Don't make excuses to eat off plan or miss a workout. If you're sore, that's not an excuse to skip the gym. There is a difference between being sore and not being recovered. And when you are training 5, sometimes 6 times per week, and your food is low, you're going to be sore. You still have to train. I told you, being shredded is painful. Suck it the fuck up and step your game up. The girl or guy next to you on stage didn't care if they were sore. They did the work that was required of them to bring their best. Do the work that is required of you to bring your best so that you don't get on stage with any regrets. Not having enough time is a very valid excuse during prep. Prep can be extremely time consuming. It's not uncommon for competitors to have to train for over an hour, 5, sometimes 6 times per week. And cardio can get up well over an hour, sometimes 7 days per week if needed. Meal prep takes time. Posing practice takes time. And you still need to schedule time to sleep because sleep is essential for recovery. If you're in prep while you're going to school, working a job, raising a family, or just living life, not having time is a very valid excuse. But it's still an excuse. We make time for what is important to us. And if you aren't making the time to do what you need to do, don't be pissed when you don't do as well as you want to. Don't be pissed when you get on stage and completely botch your posing routine because you didn't have enough time to practice posing. Posing can make or break your physique on stage. Another excuse I hear is people blaming their genetics. Oftentimes, it's a way for them to validate why they couldn't get conditioned enough. But my favorite is when they try to use their genetics as an excuse for why they didn't place as well in a certain division. Well, genetically, my shoulders are just too narrow. Genetically, my legs are just too big, or my butt is just flat. I'm just too tall or too short, and so on and so on. I've heard plenty of them. I've heard a lot of guys use this excuse too. To be honest, I think I've actually probably heard more guys use their genetics as an excuse. That male ego, y'all. But using your genetics as an excuse for bodybuilding is one of the stupidest excuses, in my opinion. First of all, nowadays there are so many different divisions offered that there is a division that will fit your genetic structure. Bodybuilding is about building your body. It is about creating balance and symmetry. Genetically, 99% of us have something working against us. I originally wanted to compete in figure when I first started, but since I am on the taller side, I have struggled enough to put on enough size just to fit in the bikini division. And I mean, over the years, the bikini division has become a lot more muscular. So nowadays, I actually like the bikini look better, anyways. But I never used my height as an excuse to not fucking go for it. If your legs are naturally bigger than your upper body and you want to compete in bikini, you can train in a way that will bring your legs down while keeping your upper body full. Or make the switch to wellness. If you're somebody who naturally has a pancake booty, you probably just need to train your glutes harder or for a longer period of time before you get on stage. Or maybe you just have longer muscle insertions, in which case you need to learn how to pose for your physique. If you naturally have narrow shoulders, fucking train your shoulders better. Those bad boys require a lot of volume to grow. Training them once, even twice per week, probably isn't enough. Bodybuilding is about building your body. One of the coolest things about the sport is seeing what your body is capable of. And I don't just mean getting shredded. Sure, that's cool to see, but it's even cooler when you take the time to train properly in the gym and eat in a way that is going to build your body to fit your chosen division. I've even seen competitors do well in multiple divisions just by learning how to pose well enough. Fucking dude, look at Erin Stern. She won Miss Figure Olympia and then made the switch to bikini and won pro shows and competed in Bikini Olympia. I'm sure she had to downsize her physique a bit, but with the evolution of the bikini division becoming more muscular, she really just had to adjust her posing to accentuate and hide different features. And at the regional level, you can totally do well in multiple divisions just by adjusting your posing. Like I said, posing can make or break a physique. And if you don't know how to pose for your physique or your division, that's on you. Don't use your genetics as an excuse. When it comes to conditioning, some people will blame genetics, but oftentimes I hear people blaming their hormones. And yes, your hormones can take a hit during competition prep. I have an entire podcast episode about that. But everyone's hormones have the potential to take a hit during competition prep, not just yours. Don't use hormones as an excuse. Hire a coach that gives a shit about you and your health and your hormones so that they don't tank too hard. And also do your own research. Listen to your body and what it's telling you. If you want an even playing field, compete in a natural federation like the OCB so that you're not getting on stage with people who are getting assistance through things like TRT or thyroid medications. Although, if you aren't aware, there are loopholes around that, and there are people stepping on natural stages while taking that kind of stuff, which is why I personally think it doesn't fucking matter unless you're getting into the more muscular divisions. But anyway, I'm not about to go into the PED talk right now because I have an entire episode about that as well. So next, I want to talk about the people who blame politics for their placement. And if you don't know what I mean by this, politics usually refers to coaches and judges being in cahoots. Like a coach will pay off a judge to pick their athlete for first place. A lot of people think that they need to hire a big name coach in order to do well. So and so always has athletes that win the shows. They must be paying the judges. Nah, bro. They probably just have a ton of athletes competing, thereby giving them a higher likelihood of having an athlete that wins the show. Trust me, the NPC is great about making sure that this shit does not happen. I do know firsthand a promoter who got in trouble for this, and they got in trouble for this. They are no longer a promoter. And I also never knew any of the judges that judged their shows. So I'm not saying this kind of thing never happens, but the NPC as a federation holds their judges to a very high standard. And if you're worried about it, look for a show that has reputable judges judging it. And keep in mind that judges are human and there might be some natural bias. But it's not because they're trying to strategically place someone higher than someone else because of who their coach is. But if there is an athlete that they have seen on stage multiple times and they start to notice that individual's improvements that they've been making from show to show, that judge might subconsciously score them higher, which is why the highest and lowest scores on the judging panel are dropped to minimize the chance of any bias like that. And another excuse along the same lines with judging are competitors who blame the judges for their placement, like outside of politics. They'll claim that they didn't do as well because the judges were favoring a softer physique or a more conditioned physique. When the reality is that usually the judges are just judging what is in front of them that day. And they were picking the best that was on stage that day. If all of the girls came out looking softer and you're shredded to the bone, you might stick out in a bad way. But if all of the girls come out shredded and you're a bit softer, you might stick out in a bad way. Bodybuilding is a subjective sport, and you can't control who shows up on stage with you. You just have to bring your best. That's literally all you can do. Sometimes people might claim that the judges didn't understand their division well enough, which is why I recommend choosing a show with reputable judges. Because, okay, full disclosure right now, this is something that I've never said publicly until this very moment. I've been hesitant to do so, but I have actually heard a certain judge say that wellness is a less conditioned version of bikini. And I was also asked to judge that same show the day before the show, even though the promoter knew damn well that I had no judging experience. I politely declined because what in the actual fuck? I've also never competed in that show again, and I won't be letting any of my athletes compete in that show again. Well, okay, that's actually a little bit of a lie, I guess. I would let my athlete know why I don't recommend that show. And then I might let them compete in it if they like insist on it, even after knowing the details. But honestly, I still don't think you can blame the judges. Bodybuilding is a subjective sport, and you can choose a show based on who is judging it. That's 1000% okay. I recommend it. There is a reason why certain shows are bigger than other shows. Well, multiple reasons, but usually big shows are big because they have good judges. And I'm going to leave that at that. I've saved the best or the worst excuse, depending on how you want to look at it, for last. Blaming coaches. I've been a coach for 16 years. I have been a competitor for 10 years. I have talked to a lot of other coaches. I have talked to a lot of other competitors. There are some bad coaches out there, sure. But to be honest, most coaches are good coaches. So, competitors, stop blaming your coach and using them as an excuse. Your coach did not force you to do anything. They are your guide. If you think they aren't feeding you enough, or they're maybe feeding you too much, ask them why your intake is what it's at. If you don't understand why your training looks the way it does, ask them why you're training that way. If there is something I've learned in my years as a coach, it's that there are about a million different strategies for coaching someone, and they can all work great. There is no one single right way or wrong way to coach someone. And I have yet to met one single coach whose beliefs align 100% with my own. And I don't think I ever will. I have had to trust my own coach when she's told me to do something outside of what I would normally do with my clients. But that's the key. You have to trust your coach and their methods because everyone knows something you don't know. Everyone has experiences that you have never had. And your coach sees you through a much different lens than you see yourself. Trust your coach. Don't do half of what they tell you to do and go behind their back doing the other half of what you think you should do. Because if you don't follow their plan isn't gonna work. And you can't blame them for it not working if you didn't follow it. I have been very happily surprised by some of the results that I've gotten by doing things that I never would have done by myself. I've also been disappointed by doing some of the things that I would have never done by myself. But keep in mind that your coach is learning your body along with you learning your own body. A client coach relationship is a two-way street. You need to relay pertinent information so that they can create a plan to the best of their ability, given the information that you have relayed to them. If you aren't letting them know that you're only 95% following their plan, then their plan may not work because you're not following it. And if you are following their plan 100% and you're disappointed by something, fucking let them know. Don't just bail on them or blame them or use them as some type of an excuse. Chances are that they're disappointed by whatever happened too. And they're going to learn from it and adjust your plan moving forward. Most people are not going to win their first show because you and your coach are learning how your body works. That first show is typically kind of a trial. It's getting a baseline to figure out where you stand and what you need to work on to improve for your next show. If you do one show with a coach and you don't like the outcome, cut them a break. Try another show and see if they can't help you improve. Jumping from coach to coach is only going to hurt you in the long run because every time a coach preps you for their first show with you, they're essentially starting from square one learning your body. Even if you tell them everything that you know about your body and your previous experiences prepping, a good coach will be smart enough to know not to compare. Because not only is every prep different, but every coach is going to have an at least slightly different strategy. And the information that you're giving them may or may not even apply to their methods. Now, if you've been with the same coach for a while and you're following their plan and trusting them 100% and you aren't making noticeable improvements, then maybe you should switch coaches. But don't blame them or their coaching style as an excuse for your lack of progress. Chances are they're a good coach and their methods just didn't work for your individual situation. And if you do have a bad coach who is just being fucking negligent and giving you a ridiculously unhealthy plan or a plan that just doesn't make any sense to what you're doing, and they aren't answering your questions when you ask them their reasoning, run away. That is a bad coach. But it's still not an excuse because you hired their dumbass. Take responsibility for not doing your homework when you were hiring a coach and use it as a learning experience to hire your next coach. Not an excuse. All right. So, did I strike any nerves with this episode? Because to be honest, I kind of hope I did. Because you guys know that I'm not one to sugarcoat shit. I'm definitely not the coach that's going to blow smoke up your ass. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you're ready to compete if you aren't. If you're inconsistent with your training or you need to work on your relationship with food, I'm going to tell you, no, you're not ready to compete. If you're not going to be conditioned enough in time for the show that you're wanting to do, I'm going to be straight up about it. But I'll also let you do the show if it still means that much to you for whatever reason, because it's your journey. I'm just your guide. You are the one that has to put in the work. Even when you're tired, even when you're hungry, even when you're sore and pressed for time, I'm going to help you push past whatever your genetics are fighting you on, or we're going to learn to work with them. I'm going to help you maintain the healthiest hormones possible with the understanding that competing is not healthy. And I'm going to make damn sure that you know what show you're signing up for and be honest about managing your expectations with the judging. That's my coaching style. And it's not for everyone, which is totally fine. There are plenty of great coaches out there. I'm friends with a lot of them. So if you don't want to work with me, let me know what kind of coach you do want to work with, and I can probably point you in a direction. And if you do want to work with me, I've linked my coaching application in the show notes. You just have to fill it out to see if we'd be a good fit. And then we'll set up a consultation call where you can interview me to see if you really want to work with me. because a coach-client relationship is a two-way street. You've got to vibe with and trust your coach. And I am super curious if those of you who liked the last episode about excuses are going to like this one too. So definitely let me know. Sharing this episode to your social media is a great way to let me know, but you could also just shoot me a DM if you'd like. I'd also appreciate giving Treadmill Talks a follow if you haven't already, and taking a quick second to leave a rating or review is also very helpful. But honestly, if you've made it this far in this episode, just know how much I appreciate the shit out of you for listening. Thank you for listening to Treadmill Talks. If this episode taught you something, lit a fire under your ass, or at least helped you forget how long you've been walking in place, please leave a review or take a screenshot to share on your social media. Don't forget to tag me at Shannon Maves so I can give you some love right back. And thanks again for listening to my Treadmill Talk.